Okay, good evening and welcome to the August 19th, 2021 meeting of the Grafton Mass Disability Commission. I'm Roger Trahan, Chair of the Commission, and I call this meeting to order. As a preliminary matter, please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Daryl Reining.
Yes.
Christy Proctor.
Yes.
Bob Berger.
Bob Berger's here.
Catherine Dorr.
Yes.
Laura Deneen. Not yet. Rob Paulsonelli.
Yes.
Okay, anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Evan Brassard. Not yet. Beth Galloway.
Present.
Okay, and Doug Bowman.
Yes.
All right. This open meeting of Grafton's Disability Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, and subsequent extension of June 16, 2021, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town's website at www.grafton-ma.gov, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment if there's anyone that wishes to do so. For this meeting, the Grafton Disability Commission is convening by video conference via Zoom, as reflected on our agenda, which is posted on our commission's webpage on the town website, identifying how people may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda, but before doing so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. We really haven't been doing that. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any responses, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. And for items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. The chair will first read public comments and questions received in advance of the meeting. There have been none, followed by real-time board and or applicant responses. Public comments during the meeting will be conducted through the chat feature in Zoom. The chair will read real-time comments / questions typed by computer participants in the chat feature, followed by real-time board / applicant responses. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. And that's a mouthful. Okay, first item on the agenda, Select Board representation on Disability Commission. Welcome, Bob Berger. Oh, Evan, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, and Bob Berger, who's our building inspector and town's ADA coordinator, has replaced Matt Offen as the Select Board rep as of Tuesday's Select Board meeting. So welcome, Bob. A man of many words. So I will accept a motion for the Disability Commission to send Matt Offen a letter of thanks on behalf of the commission and for the chair to draft that letter. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Daryl. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, second by Rob. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor by roll call. Daryl Reining.
Aye.
Christy Proctor,
Aye.
Bob Berger,
Aye.
Catherine Dorr,
Aye.
Rob Paulsonelli,
Aye.
Trahan, I declare the motion carried unanimously. Okay, second item under announcements, Grafton having recognized ADA's 31st anniversary on July 26th. I just wanted to give a shout out to William Blake, our who's one of his roles is communications director for the town. And so he got a really nice solid blurb, among other things, on the town website. I hadn't checked GCTV, nor had I checked the social media presence, but my understanding is it proceeded in that direction as well. So I was real pleased that that is a pretty simple, I guess, way to just kind of get these announcements out there as these milestone anniversaries or disability related items come up each month or whatnot. So a couple other announcements that I came up with here are number one, Chaz Davis, Grafton native and Grafton High grad, has been named to the John Hancock Pro Team, the para athlete team for the 125th Boston Marathon that will be run on Monday, October 11th. So shout out to Chaz on this accomplishment. And the final announcement that I had was that on Saturday, October 2nd, starting at 10, is going to be the first Michael Cherry Memorial 5K run that will start and finish at the Municipal Center. And this is sponsored by the nonprofit Oddball Foundation. And I guess they had come in front of the select board to, close off the roads and everything like that. And it was founded during COVID-19 to respond to the mental health crisis. And among other things, it's to highlight the ongoing suicide crisis and expand the conversation around mental health and suicide. And Michael Cherry is a 2007 Grafton High grad, and he passed away on 10/5 of 17 at age 27. So this is going to be the first Michael Cherry Memorial 5K, and I will give you the address for the GoFundMe. It's gofundme.com/Michael-Cherry, CHERRY-memorial-run. So we'll be hearing more about that on social media and in other venues. So as far as any announcements, does anyone have any announcements that I may have missed that are access or disability related? Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out of order under old business number 4 under projects. I am going to take the Grafton Library item, and we'll discuss that now out of order. And to keep the conversation going from or preventing it from going in a lot of directions, there are some elements here regarding sensory. The flooring was first brought up, walls and colors also brought up, but also ADA, the more ADA and Mass Architectural Access Board stuff. And I'll just randomly start then first with the opening, the plans for that, and the ADA walkthrough or subsequent walkthroughs that will happen, and what needs to be done, if anything, and where we're at as far as the ADA piece or AAB piece regarding the walkthrough. So I'm not sure, Beth, Evan, Bob, if you want to toss a coin as to who may be more versed in tackling the ADA piece and the opening.
Or to Evan.
Oh, I was just about to defer to Beth. Fantastic. So thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. Apologize for being a couple minutes late. I'm used to meetings being at 7, and it wasn't until I looked at my phone and saw I was 7 minutes late that I ran.
No, you weren't, Evan, you weren't 7 minutes late. I had this massive technical issue where I had to swap computers. My my audio was not working at all. So we started only 1 minute before you came on. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then in that
Yeah.
case, I was waiting for a while, and
Oh, all
Yeah.
right.
maybe you could be more prompt next time.
All right. Okay.
So the ADA walkthrough went, kind of as expected. They found a number of issues ranging from shower access to some counter heights. Not access, Beth. What am I trying to say? The fixtures in the shower were not really accessible in the staff area. We have some other issues. Most of it is height issues to be able to access certain things. We didn't have any barriers to entry. We didn't have any, transitional problems. It's mostly counter heights, bathroom fixture heights, things like that, which were missed in either design process or the installation process. So Andy Deshane has been working to get those things rectified. Having done a municipal building, not a library, but a town hall, I can tell you that we had a very similar experience. Even though the code is pretty clear of what we're trying to do and we had done reviews, these things still occurred. And so when I saw when I talked to Andy about the list, nothing really jumped out as nothing's insurmountable, nothing's not fixable, and we'll all be ready before the library opens. So, always frustrating, but also not very uncommon as far as these go. I think Mr. Berger's
Yeah, I saw
signaling.
Mr.
Okay.
Berger. I saw you raising your hand. Yeah, please.
And just to add on to that, there were items on the plan review and they were corrected during the plan review. But when you're out in the field and the contractors are putting something up and they miss it by 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch, it was on the plan properly, but something happened out in the field and a counter height is not 36, it's 36.5 for one reason or another. These are the minor items that I think we're all really talking about for most of the issues that came up on the AAB walkthrough.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Nothing catastrophic. Nothing, large.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
So do we refer to it heretofore as an AAB walkthrough because we're at the state level, or?
Well, when I issue a permit, I issue it based on AAB.
Okay.
The building department does not enforce ADA. Eventually, they're going to align, but they don't align right now. There's minute details between a toilet paper hanger in one code versus another one, and it's tricky.
Okay. All right. So when is the anticipated opening?
That's Beth.
Yeah. So we are still waiting on shelving. There were delays getting raw materials in fabrication, and then in shipping. We got a set of incorrect shelving that had to be returned while new shelving was fabricated, and the installers put up as much as they could. But as of today, we're still waiting for shelving and a few pieces of miscellaneous furniture that was supposed to ship last Friday, with no new information as to when that's arriving. So currently, we have the collection in boxes. We have it scattered throughout the building, crammed on the tops of the wooden shelves that go, or wooden shelf ends and end caps that go over the metal shelving, making it not safe for people to be in the building. And there's shelving in storage areas that hasn't been put in, so we can unpack boxes and put them away. So until I have a ship date for that missing shelving, I can't give an answer as to when the library will open, but I can tell you we are definitely not opening to the public Monday the 23rd as we'd anticipated. And honestly, the 30th is not looking likely now either. Mass Board of Library Commissioners who funded the grant walked through, I think Monday or Tuesday this week. They were overall pleased. They had some feedback. And they also said that, because I was thinking of doing a phased opening, a few hours a day to get people in, to close, have a meeting, figure out changes to workflow, or where do we need to sign, or we need to move this plant. They said, no, you are either open or you're closed. And we recommend that you have 2 full weeks in the building after everything is installed before you open up.
Okay.
And to add to this missing shelving too, we still don't have key cards. We still don't have security camera training. We're waiting on Xerox training. We have 40 public internet computers that don't have all the software or PC management installed. So we're looking at September definitely, but I do not have a date. It
Okay.
gives plenty of time though, if we are going to make additional adjustments to counter heights or sinks or shower handles, we have time to do that. But
So we're
the
talking
public,
2 weeks. We're talking 2 weeks then between, like, you get to get the feel of the building for a 2-week
Yeah.
period.
yeah, and we're trying to do that, but again, with so many systems, computers, electrical outlets, so we can't put the computer next to the security gate to train on how that works.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
All I can say is September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Christy, you had a question?
Just for the minutes, Beth, can you just explain to me again? This is the Mass Board of Library Grantors, TORS?
No, the
Commissioners.
MBLC, Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners.
Oh, commissioners, excuse me.
And
Thank you.
yeah, that's okay. They're kind of lobbyists, but they also do a lot of funding and programming. They're the ones that I have to report my annual statistics and budget to be in compliance to get our state aid money. But they also issued us the building, the Mass Public Library Program grant that paid for a significant piece of this project.
So now you have to be under their recommendation of working in-house, everybody on the ground, 2 weeks close to the public, but your staff will be in there for 2 weeks fully before you open to the public.
Yeah.
Okay.
They said that that's standard. Yeah.
Okay.
And not to try to do a partial opening, just
Okay,
Yeah.
I understand.
get it right, be comfortable, and then open.
Thank you for that update. I have to give a shout out to everyone who's been involved in this. You, Beth, the committees, the subcommittees, just looking at the minutes of the various committees and paying attention to what's been going on, even scanning those minutes and such. It's been a monumental task, and I, for one, think this is going to be an amazing space. So shout out.
Okay.
You're welcome. Moving forward to the sensory piece regarding the initial discussion point was the flooring and the various patterns we had been discussing. And then more recently, and that included a Christie walkthrough. And more recently, Christie and Daryl went and did another walkthrough. And there had been some email communications regarding various colors, which pertain to autism spectrum. So if we could have that discussion, I know, Evan, you had looked a little bit into some of this as well. I know I think you had mentioned your wife had at some point worked with various populations, and you also had some perspective on these matters as well. So I'll open this up. I know that initially, but I'll back up a second. Initially, and I guess erroneously, the letter that I had drafted through a recent meeting vote had Bob Berger as the recipient and everyone else was CC'd, but we know that this isn't the type of measurable ADA, AAB stuff, nor are there really specific guidelines regarding sensory, but we do have information out there that speaks of, situations that may be better as far as the interior design in various areas. So Bob will not be the go-to person because this is neither really ADA or AAB. So Evan, were you going to start the conversation off, or Beth, Christy, Daryl?
Well, I think I'll just state that, we want to assume that everyone is working to make this the most accessible, welcoming place in Grafton. And those who live here, we know and love all our children, all our adults with autism as well. And you're right, Roger, this isn't in the regs, but disability isn't just about regs. There's a lot of things that are non-compliant that have nothing to do with regulations. And some of this that can be attributed to ableist attitudes. I'm just going to say that out there. For those of you who have a question about that, let me know. We'll talk later. But for the meantime, the sensory issues are a true disability for many people. And so is the visual patterning, the vertigo, some of the things that we've heard about. So I don't think any of this was meant to cause the uproar that it has. I shouldn't say uproar, but the concerns that it has. I mean, it was all well intentioned. And I think this is one of those learning moments for the town where we can just step back and say, okay, how can we look at this through a different lens and be a little more welcoming? And it may be just a small tweak, or it may be a larger tweak further down the line. Again, you know, we constantly assess things based on how things are used, what's their function, is it still working after a set period of time? I mean, you can solve one problem and sometimes other problems rise up. So that's just the continuum of being someone who is constantly looking for the best accessible solution. So Daryl, why don't you pop in here and share a little bit about what we were thinking for the children's area?
All right. Well, I wanted to say to the library people, first of all, I was amazed and so happy to see the new library. It is absolutely stunningly beautiful in there. And honestly, you know, the rug patterns, I had heard that one of the remedial solutions were to put pathways to the most important pieces and the most important places that children and teens need to go. And I think that is absolutely perfect solution to that. You know, working with kids on the spectrum like I have for 30 years, you know, there isn't hard research on colors, although the advice we're always given is to keep things monochromatic, which means pick one of the colors in your scheme and keep things that in that schematic color range. So, but that children's library is so huge, I'm not sure that those bright colors will interfere. I'm not positive about that. So, and the other thing we are usually concerned about is the lighting, and at least the lighting in the children's room, there's so much natural light, and it's more the buzzing noise of the light, and also sometimes the harsh glow of the LED lights really bother kids who have sensory processing issues. But it didn't, at least in the children's room, it did not look like that is going to be a problem. The teen room, in their game room, those lights looked problematic to me. However, everyone said the lights are going to be off. So, you know, I don't know. That's really all I have for that. I wouldn't have chose those rugs, but somebody did.
Yeah, and I know that one of the things that happens is that we look back at minutes. Minutes aren't meant to be a play-by-play, and not all of these meetings were televised. So I do know that the some of this had been brought up earlier on at the end of 2020, where, you know, various colors are being chosen. So eventually there were various patterns and colors that were landed on after some of them that were put forth before the design subcommittee, that it was mentioned in the minutes that they were sort of maybe too busy. I'm paraphrasing, but so I understand that maybe there were various choices. It wasn't the first look and you landed on something, but there were various choices and selections put forth in front of a committee and or subcommittee, and then, you know, you chose a various, you know, a particular pattern. So I guess what happens now? We just wait and see. Is there anything that can be remediated now, or we just wait and see? You know, if anyone brings anything to someone's attention. Evan, do you have a question?
No, I was going to speak to that.
Okay. Yes.
whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
I have to say I'm a chatterbox, so just tongue in cheek, I say tell Trahan to shut up. So please proceed.
And I think Daryl wanted to speak.
Yeah, I just have
Oh,
one more little thing to add. In all the literature I searched through, the colors they say to avoid for kids with sensory processing are red and yellow, and things on the spectrums of red and yellow. But blues, greens, purples, pink, those are all calming colors. So
Okay.
Evan,
I think that's why we were suggesting that you can keep the green color, but just tone it down a little, because when you come into that space and you're hit with that wall of chartreuse, bright, bright, bright green, it's great for typical kids. It really is. But for kids on the spectrum, it's a double whammy. It really is. You're getting a lot of sensory information at once.
So I guess what do we do now, if anything? What can be done as we are on the cusp of opening this building? Yet there's been a slight pause because of shelving and other issues.
Yeah, so I think, when we met, Chris, I believe it was just Christy from the Disability Commission that was on the call with the library, whatever you call it, committee. There's so many committees, some subcommittee. And so, we discussed the carpet at length. The carpet definitely has opposing and repetitive patterns. It repeats every 4 tiles. And so we really felt that if we, and I'm speaking for the library group, I think as we jumped off that call, we really felt that once we get shelving and seating and tables, that repetitive pattern and maybe even the that shock of color will be broken up by having all that stuff in place. That room certainly is overwhelming when you walk in and it's empty, right? It's like 4,000 square feet of green and yellow geometric shapes as far as you can see. That's all you can see. And I think once we get the material in there, I think that's when we need to take a harder look and see how much of an issue we think this is going to be, and then come up with whatever we think the solution is going to be that's reasonable all the way around, which might be the pathway conversation. I was spending a lot of time. It's interesting, and I digress just for a second. So my experiences with adults with developmental disabilities, autism, Down syndrome, Fragile X, and their housing needs and their space needs. My wife's expertise is in children with autism. She's a BCBA and works in, actually as of Tuesday, she works in a school system. She was in home until then. And so we actually both spent quite a bit of time driving, drilling down, trying to find some peer-reviewed, documents that exist about color. And there really aren't any. There's one study, and I think this is probably the same study Daryl was just talking about, that talks about color preference, which is, reds and yellows, especially on the brighter side of the color wheel, are generally believed to have more of an impact on somebody with sensory processing disorders, and that you should really stay towards the pastels, pinks, blues, even greens. And so, it's further interesting because, having worked with people, there are certainly people and children on the autism spectrum that prefer bright colors and differentiating patterns. So we would, when I was building rehabilitation facilities, we would have sensory rooms that were quieter and sensory rooms that were more sensory. And so that was, it makes it difficult to design a space that's good for everyone. I think Beth and I haven't talked about this, but I think we're definitely interested in looking at color choice as far as the wall in the, we're talking about the smaller room, correct? Is that where that bright color is, or is that a different?
It's an accent wall at the far end of the room. It's apple green, although I suppose depending on time of day, it can look a little bit brighter, but it's,
Okay.
yeah, it's like the color of a green apple.
Okay. So I think we can definitely have that conversation, see what our options are. I need to circle back with the owner's project manager and make sure where we are, budget, time, staffing, all of that. It's a logistical conversation at this point. The rugs, again, I think I was quoted in the paper as basically saying, wait and see, which is part of what I said, but I think I was really clear in saying we definitely want to be sensitive to the issue. We just want to see what the issue actually plays out like when you see it in a room with all this other stuff in it, because I think that that's going to change the dynamic of the room. So I think that's as far as we have gotten, Beth, unless I'm missing any part of that conversation.
No, and again, with not even everything shipped yet and installed, and the things that don't belong in there, because they use the children's room a little bit as a staging area, like we need to get out some things too. So we're, even next week, I don't know that we'll have everything in place to take a picture or have people come back and look. But I can tell you that with the room filling up, the carpet seems a bit diminished in its boldness, at least to me. But I also have loved it from the beginning. I am someone on the spectrum, and so is my kid. But just because we like it and it doesn't affect us, doesn't mean that that's not somebody else's issue. We're sensitive to it.
Yep.
And there's the issue, Beth. Bingo. That's the issue.
Daryl,
you
you
met
oughta-
one person with autism. You've met one person with autism.
Exactly.
And we're trying to do the most, the broadest range possible, right? So, and I have nothing against apple green. I mean, I'm not apple greenism, but I think that this is one of those areas where, because it's such a large public use space, a lot of opinions will come out. And there's going to be people without disabilities who are going to have plenty of opinions that you're going to have to deal with. So, yeah, I know. But this all sounds good. I think we're all on the same page with moving this forward. And Evan, I did write word for word what you said. I will not misquote you. I'm not going to share this with Jen either, so, but
Daryl had a question as well.
Yeah.
No, just a statement. I mean, I was just going to comment on what Evan had said. I mean, I think what he said is perfectly fair. It is going to be different when things are in there and arranged, and perhaps the only thing he will need to do is put a pathway down to make it clear on where to go and where to walk. So I think what he said is perfectly fair.
Okay.
So let me ask this then, and this is to the committee here. At this time, we have Christy, who has been the Disability Commission's liaison to the building committee. I don't think specifically to the subcommittee, but to the. So are we in agreement then in that? Do we keep that sort of liaisonship, if there's such a word, until that committee dissolves and keep Christy on, or is that not necessary? Or
it's up to Beth, I think, and Evan, because I'm happy to attend. I mean, everything truly is winding down, and but here's the thing, and everyone knows this. We can set up the building. We still have one more walkthrough. Bob, I'm not sure what the date is, if you can share that later. We still have one more walkthrough before the sign off. And then, of course, once you open it, there may be other issues that may incidentally come up. I'm not saying there's going to be a mad rush, but every once in a while something comes up, and we're happy to help. That's kind of what we're here for. So.
right. So we leave things as is, and have you still be the liaison, Christy? If that, I mean, no harm, no foul. I mean, you've been the point person. Then Daryl had come on to accompany you in the more recent visit. What I'm looking to avoid, among other things, is the following, and this could easily happen through no fault of anyone's own, is what I kind of like freakish about regarding procedure and open meeting law is making sure that it can very easily happen that serial conversations happen where I'm sort of like a conduit of information flow being the chair, and Daryl and Christy are two other members, and all it would take is one more member of the commission to enter that conversation. And if it's a serial conversation regarding something that would reasonably be expected to come before the commission, then we could run afoul. So I'm kind of cautious about there being, more than one point person. Daryl, I appreciated that you did accompany Christy on that because of your unique background, regarding autism. So that's my thought process, that I'm trying to avoid that. And I'm also trying to avoid too many people going like a ping pong ball of emails back and forth, because we're dealing with our commission, we're dealing with, a committee and a subcommittee in the library. We're dealing with the fact that you, Evan, are a day-to-day point person as town administrator. So I want to, at all costs, avoid too many people going back and forth in making this too busy an issue than it needs to be. So that's my thought. So, sure, Evan.
I think that it might behoove the committee when we get everything set up in that room, even if we're not open to the public yet, to post a meeting, because and take a walkthrough as a group.
Mhm.
And I think that would be helpful to see the space and understand what the space looks like once it's complete.
Right.
And then we can have a in-person discussion in the room about what we think. I think that would facilitate our resolve here faster.
Okay.
Than just doing it on here. And even though we're posting a public meeting, I think that, given our participation at public meetings, it's probably low risk that we're going to get a huge turnout of the public that
Okay.
wants to come along. So
Okay.
I think that it's perfectly reasonable to do that.
Okay.
And I think it would be helpful for me, and I think Beth probably as well, to do that, as a group and have conversation as we go.
Okay.
Even if, I can do that. And if we want to post it, do that in the evening so that everybody can come. If the library's not open to the public, we can certainly make that happen.
And we would need to work out the mechanics of the Zoom, because, we need to be masked in the various buildings and such. And I know that when meetings are in person, they also there has to be, unless there's a hardship, an alternative means, and that would be Zoom. So I guess once we're seated in the room, I guess that's one thing. But trying to do the walkthrough with a...
So there are provisions for walkthroughs in the open meeting law.
Oh, they're right. Okay.
So I think they don't call them walkthroughs. I think they call them site visits is how
Okay.
the law reads. And the reason I knew that is because we've built I was part of building a building, and we had to do a number of site visits. So I can definitely help with the logistics of how to make that work if that's something that the committee is interested in. I just think that would be a good step at some point.
Okay.
And I did, just before you move on, I did want to thank Daryl for her words. I've been really struggling to have this conversation, both as someone who wants to advocate for people with disabilities, but also as a town administrator with a pocketbook.
Right.
Or and a job to do, and we want to make it as accessible to everyone, but we also want to make sure that we're reasonable with the taxpayers' money. And so that's been a hard conversation, which is probably why I didn't like that quote so much in the newspaper.
Right.
But no, but I thank her for the support.
Thank you, Daryl. And thank you, Evan, for those words. Doug Bowman, do you have any comments? I don't see your face. You're kind of all blocked out. Doug Bowman, are you there?
I am here. No, my camera's not working today, thankfully.
Okay.
No,
All right.
I'm primarily here to listen.
Okay. All right. Yeah. For those who don't, I don't know if we've ever met Doug. Doug is one of the members of the Board of Library Trustees of the Grafton Public Library. And I'll make that distinction regarding Grafton Public Library because there's another Board of Trustees of the Nelson Library. I got to make that distinction. So, all right. So I guess then we'll schedule a meeting as Beth, as you know, as you get to hear when those shelves are coming in and get closer to a date, maybe even through Christy or me, or even Evan, just we can arrange a walkthrough, okay? In unreasonably short notice, and I can just kind of poll the committee outside this meeting as to what times and days are best. So I appreciate your time. Beth, Doug, and Evan, and Evan, do you have a little bit more time so I could take one more item out of order? Since
Sure.
I have you and Mr. Berger now here.
Sure.
And it had to do with under old business, I have the FY23 capital list. And I had sent an email about a month ago, just trying to coordinate and make sure that I wasn't duplicating the efforts of various people, okay? And I know there's a timeline that Capital Improvement Planning Committee has that I think the deadline is typically, the bylaw speaks of a September date for FY23. So, Mr. Berger, I think you were taking the municipal center and maybe one or more other buildings to kind of come up with possible capital items if they met that criteria, or maybe a package. And Mr. Brassard, you know, I don't know what you may have had in mind, or was speaking with Mr. Berger. I just want to make sure we don't miss any deadlines regarding things that we could tackle that were either part of the ADA self-evaluation transition plan from 2019, or maybe other items that we recognize that weren't part of that evaluation.
So,
Go ahead, Evan.
so we do have a number of projects ongoing. And I think that there are still things in that capital plan that hadn't been funded yet. I'd have to go back and review that. But so we're doing the ramp project at the municipal center right now. We're also doing some door handle improvements that were recommended in that. And we are installing a ADA accessible customer service window in the building department to try to add some accessibility there as well. I'd have to, I didn't look at the capital plan before I got on here, and I'm still not acclimated to it. If you want to know what Munson's going to do in the fall, I can tell you that because I built that whole plan. This isn't my plan yet, and I don't have it top of mind yet. I'd be more than happy to look at that and then shoot something back out to the committee and let you know where projects are and what we can put into the queue. The other slight, it's not a wrinkle, but we're moving to a capital planning software.
Okay.
We're going to start using that this fall. It'll be fully online for the spring. And that will should give every board, committee, and the public free access to the capital plan, what was funded, what isn't, where it's going to be coming, what's going to be next. So that should help with some of this conversation. But in the meantime, I can go back and pull the plan and let you know. Okay,
I appreciate that. And along those lines, I as a committee, it's tough based on our current schedule of once a month to sort of get in the groove regarding action items that are best tackled on a day-to-day basis by various people that are there each day. And one of the things my thought process was, Disability Commission can certainly, one of our tasks can be to work with the various people that are putting forth things in front of CIPC and offer our endorsement for these things to sort of help move them along without us being the doers of all of this stuff, because there are various department heads and people that are overseeing various buildings that know those buildings best, are in the buildings on a daily basis, and the department heads. And so I see our role more primarily to be regarding CIPC and even for grants to sort of review these things and put our rubber stamp, not rubber stamp, but put our stamp behind various projects to help move them along. So.
Absolutely. I think having Mr. Berger present is going to help that quite a bit, since we talk, several times a day. So we're always in communication about things. So, you can definitely help drive that, since you're a volunteer board that meets once a month.
Right.
And I think, we're gonna keep up the momentum. It's a little hard right now. I'm still getting acclimated to where we left off.
Right.
But I was able to procure an earmark in the budget, the state budget, in order to do that accessible window for the building department.
Awesome.
So that was a $25,000 earmark.
Oh, good.
Which I'm pretty excited about. I think that's going to be a real big improvement as far as accessibility goes, to people that are navigating the hallways, not having to try to get through a doorway and behind a counter, and they can just
So
access it
where,
right from
where did
there.
that come from? Was it a grant? Was it what was the source?
So it's essentially political pork.
Okay.
And so what happens is we beat up our legislators to put money into the budget for a specific purpose, and then we get the money. They call it an
Okay.
earmark, but it's essentially what's quasi broken with the political system.
Okay.
which is partly my job to make sure that we get part of that broken system. So
Okay.
so we were able to get 25,000 for that, and we also got 25,000 for the public safety side too.
All right.
And that's something we can use as we desire.
Excellent. Mr. Berger, you had your hand up.
So with the list that we had developed a couple of years ago, we're just plugging away a little bit at that list right now. One of it is, like Evan said, is the sidewalk, the raised sidewalk. But we also had a complaint that was going on for years on the existing walkways by the vault and by the elevator, that they were missing handrails. So that's incorporated in the sidewalk. So that is on the list. So we're chipping that list away.
Right.
And then, of course, like Evan was talking about, we're changing half a dozen doorknobs, because doorknobs was on that list. We're not changing all the doorknobs, because we only have so much in the bucket of money that we can't just put it all, we can't just do it all. We have to take it by piecemeal. I don't want to. It'd be nice if we could get a grant to do everything, but there's a lot of money that would have to be thrown into the municipal budget just to get that entire list wiped out. So right now we're kind of hitting some big pieces like the ramp and the ironwork, because iron's very expensive.
Right.
And then we're hitting little low-hanging fruit. So that's my thinking on how we're handling the municipal center.
Right. Okay.
And I think we're making some significant progress. I mean, we're just continuing forward momentum all the time. And anytime we have additional money, we didn't need it for we always need it, but you know what I mean? We get to the end of the year, we have some maintenance money, throw that at doorknobs, throw that at, anything that we can do to knock things off the list.
And looking at the ADA self-eval, I think that there were a lot of things that could either be done like at no cost or low cost internally by staff, and that the list, when you take out pictures and you take out all the low-hanging fruit that can be done internally, that document isn't as daunting as it initially seemed. It really isn't. When you break it up and you start checking those things off and doing them on a regular basis, a lot of that is low cost. And so I think the state appreciates that, especially when we go after grants and such, that we're not just waiting for someone else to pay for these things, that we're plugging away at them. And so I guess while I still had you here, and it's just going to take another 30 seconds, and I'll, Christy, if you could take this item out of order. Yeah. Oh, Daryl.
I just have a quick question
Yes.
for Evan and Bob.
Okay.
So our Matt often had done and Catherine had done a really great job breaking down that list.
Mhm.
And I just want to make sure you guys have that breakdown.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I had
I do,
sent
yeah.
that to, yeah, I'd sent that off to both Evan and Bob recently.
I met with Matt and I went over the list with Matt and I now have that list and that's what we're working off of.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think you've had it for a while, Bob, from way back.
I have.
Yeah, Matt did a great job at doing that. So I guess Christy, as our clerk, I'll ask that we just take one more item out of order under old business. It was just a reminder of the Mass Office on Disabilities Municipal ADA Improvement Grant that goes through October 1 of 21. That's a Friday. So just that date will probably be quickly upon us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so that's something that I don't know, Evan, whether you discuss this at your staff meetings, or whether you just have tabs on these type of things that could be, put in a grant application. But I think our next meeting is like the 15th or so. It's the third Thursday of each month. So that if there is some rough draft of something you want to put together in advance of our September meeting, that we could make an endorsement, and the letter of endorsement by the committee would hold further weight as one of the documents that you upload in that process. So I'm just advertising that these clocks tick quickly. So and that's really all I have as far as taking up your time, Evan. I don't know whether you're still in the municipal center right now or you're home.
I am home.
Okay.
My 7-year-old came down with COVID.
Oh, geez.
So I am quarantining with her.
Okay.
I'm vaccinated. I got tested. I did not contract it, but
Right.
as soon as there's COVID in the house, you can't have childcare. So,
Right.
so thankfully, the select board in Grafton is gracious enough to let me work remotely while we do that. I have a 5-year-old too, who I'm hoping doesn't get it,
geez.
because then that starts that quarantine.
Well,
So
I hope
it'll be.
everyone is well. Everyone
No,
stays well.
she's typical kid. Had a headache for a day and then she's fine. Where she gets a cold, she's out for half a day and I'm out for a month.
Right.
And I can't get rid of it.
Right.
So she's doing well.
Right.
And I appreciate that. But yeah. So I'm at home. I would rather be at the office. I'll tell you, I'm
Right.
exhausted. Two
Yeah.
kids and 200 emails a day. I'm ready
Oh,
for bed
geez.
right now.
Yeah, you need a mini vacay. So I mean, there's other agenda items, but they don't require your input. I mean,
Okay.
but I just wanted to throw that one at you, the last regarding the grant program. So thank you so
Great.
much for your time.
Absolutely.
Evan.
Thanks for inviting me. Always, if there's anything you want to discuss, shoot me an invite and I'll try to make it.
All right.
And otherwise, like I said, Bob and I talk very regularly, so we can circle back on that too.
Awesome.
All right. And last thing, I will follow up with William on the grant, because I did give him that information and we'll see where we're at with that.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Good night, Evan.
Bye, everyone.
Take
Good night.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that piece is done. The library piece is done. Capital planning. Okay, so external correspondence. I was CC'd on an email from Scott Ricker regarding the land trust, Montgomery Wood, but I will just defer that to the discussion on old business regarding AAB or ADA complaints. But I just wanted that external correspondence has been a placeholder, and I'm CC'd on a lot of this stuff. So to that extent, as chair, I've thrown it out into the meeting agendas, and so it's kind of random that if I hadn't been CC'd, we wouldn't necessarily be talking about it. So moving on then to meeting minutes of June 17th, if you could just bear with me. before accepting a motion, I will just call the attention here that the only people here tonight that were also at that meeting that wouldn't be abstaining would be Catherine, Daryl, Christy, and myself. Matt Offen and Jen Pearson were present, but no longer on the committee. Laura was not there that night. So the abstentions would necessarily have to be Laura, and then Rob Paulsonelli and Bob Berger, because they were absent because they weren't members of the commission back then. So I just wanted to, before we eventually lead to a vote, who really needs to abstain from that, and it would really be Laura, Rob, and Bob. So I'll accept the motion to approve the June 17th, 2021 meeting minutes.
So moved.
All right, so moved by Daryl. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Daryl, seconded by Catherine to approve the draft minutes of June 17th, 2021. Do I have any discussion on the motion? All right, I have some discussion points. Not too many. Just a reminder that to remove the agenda meeting notice wording or draft and then just replace it with minutes at the top. If possible, it may be helpful to perhaps under the Zoom conference link or somewhere at the top in parentheses, approved during 8/19/21 meeting, that when we're looking back at these, we would know the date that they were approved, if no one has any objection for that. There were a couple of just small word items that and typos that may actually be pertinent. Under announcements, under number 1, second page is the third bullet point. Okay. It was regarding the Mass legislative update. 4 lines down, the last word, and I'll read the sentence. Christie pointed out valid concerns for not continuing Zoom access to meetings. I think the word not shouldn't be in there. That it conveys the opposite of what was meant. I think it should say Christie pointed out valid concerns for continuing Zoom access to meetings. So the word not, which is the last word in the 4th line, needs to be deleted. Do you see that, Christy?
Not yet. Are we
Okay.
in the meeting minutes for July 15th or June? I want to make sure.
No, wait, no, June 17th.
That's what I thought. Okay.
June 17th. Under
That's what I thought. Okay.
announcements. So it's number 1, announcements.
I got
the
it.
third bullet point, Mass legislative update. 4th line down, last word. The word not. It needs to be deleted because it would convey the opposite of what we meant.
Okay.
Because by removing the word not, it then would say Christie pointed out valid concerns for continuing Zoom access to meetings.
I agree.
So,
Got it.
all right. And then jumping to number 5, new business.
Okay.
Under project updates, where we're first talking in that sub bullet point circle about Grafton Common. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down, the sentence that begins, the Historic Commission is hosting a public comment session. That's the Historic District Commission.
Thank you.
So add the word district after historic.
Got it.
And the other thing would be at the end, similar to prior draft minutes, if you could at the end add the hyperlink to the meeting packet.
Yeah, I thought I did, but I'll go back and do that. That's not an issue.
You had done that in the July
Wait a
one.
Wait a minute. No, it's there. The meeting packet of materials. It's there underneath the signature. Grafton Mass Sites Files, Disability Commission Meeting Packet 6/17/2021.pdf.
Really? Oh my God. Okay, I don't see it.
Okay,
Okay.
I've got it on mine. Don't worry, it will be on the official version.
Okay, awesome. And then at the very end of that, on this version that I had, when you said Disability Commission member and recording clerk, the
Yep.
commission members block grid block was included that needs to be deleted, at least on my copy. It was your sort of placeholder as you're taking votes.
Oh yeah, mine's gone.
Oh, it is gone. Okay, on mine it was still there. Okay. Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor by roll call. Daryl Reining,
Aye.
Christy Proctor,
Aye.
Catherine Dorr,
Aye.
Laura Deneen,
Laura Deneen abstain.
Rob Paulsonelli,
Abstain.
Bob Berger,
Bob Berger abstain.
Roger Trahan, aye. I declare the motion carried 4 in favor, none opposed, and 3 abstentions. Okay, July 15th, 2021 draft minutes. So present were at that meeting, Laura, Rob, Christy, and myself. Absent were Catherine and Daryl. And then Matt is no longer with us and Bob hadn't been appointed yet. So I just wanted to point that out regarding Catherine and Daryl not having, when I take the vote. Do I have a motion to approve the draft meeting minutes of July 15th, 2021?
So moved.
So moved by Rob. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by, was that Laura? Yeah. Okay.
It was Laura.
All right. Motion made by Rob, second by Laura to approve the draft meeting minutes of July 15th, 2021. Do I have any discussion on the motion? Okay.
Does anybody want me to share the meeting minutes? I apologize. While I was doing the work before to edit, I forgot to share. Does anybody have a burning desire for me to share? Let me know. Share my screen.
I mean, I'm all set. Does anyone else have any? I mean, or you could just let your hand. What was that, Rob?
I'm so sorry. I was just saying I had the opportunity to read them earlier too, so I'm all set.
Okay. Yeah, let Trahan ramble and we'll be on to the next agenda item
Okay,
after his.
I just want to make a note that at the very end, I do have the pictures that I included from the walkthrough
Okay.
that are attached to the meeting minutes, so they are
All right.
there.
Okay, awesome. And that's one of the things I was going to mention. So again, with these, just, to replace the word draft minutes.
Already did.
Yeah, and then.
And approved in the meeting packet.
Yeah, and then approved during 8/19/21 meeting.
Done.
And then awesome. You rock. Yeah, under number 3, correspondence, public input.
Yeah.
Just so there's no confusion, if anyone's nerd enough to go through and read all of these minutes, that's a 1-sentence item that says commission received a response from AAB June 2nd. I would just say dated June 2nd, but in parentheses or just say see details under new business, because the details of that AAB order regarding Montgomery Wood were detailed later on in the minutes. So if anyone's wondering, well, what was that? They can just be directed. So see details under new business would be awesome.
Okay.
And then under capital list, not capital list, web content, pardon.
Okay.
Roger has ensured that our commission's annual reports from 2018 and 2019 are posted on the town website. It was actually 2019 and 2020.
Okay.
We hadn't been reconstituted in 2018. But now 2019 and 2020 are on our webpage. And then, of course, yep. So adding the slideshow to the approved minutes, that's awesome. And then that is it as far as my recommended edits. Anyone have any further discussion on the motion?
No, Christy, this is Laura. I would just ask again that about my last name. It's kind of spelt differently throughout the document. So
Uh-oh.
just FYI.
I missed that. I missed that.
I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check. Thanks, Laura.
You're welcome.
So for new people like Bob Berger, Bob, I grew up with a dineen, not a da-neen. So it's sometimes a little technical, but I did get you right under present. So I'll do a search and replace.
No problem. No problem.
I apologize. But I get the same thing with Proctor, same thing. So
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh, I found it. Did you only see one or should I keep going?
I'll keep checking.
Okay. Thanks, Laura. I appreciate your grace. Oh, that's cute.
Any other discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none by roll call. All those in favor, Rob Paulsonelli,
Aye.
Laura Deneen,
Laura Deneen, aye.
Christy Proctor,
Aye.
Catherine Dorr,
Abstain.
Daryl Reining,
Abstain.
Bob Berger.
Bob Berger, abstain.
Roger Trahan, I declare the motion carried 4 in favor, none opposed, 3 abstain. Okay, next item on the agenda. Now we're going to old business, and we tackled the ADA improvement grant earlier. We tackled the library. Grafton Common, including bandstand. I texted back and forth with Paul Scarlett, and I guess there was some delay, and this is a supply issues on the granite. This is granite along the sides of the walkways are used to stabilize it. So I guess it's a couple or so week delay on that. When the walkway finally gets done, my understanding from Paul is that that would, if the bandstand isn't finished before the brick, that wouldn't hold up the brick walkways being opened up to the public. It's just that the bandstand would be taped off. So, Mr. Berger, do you have any input on any of that regarding things that may have come your way regarding the Grafton Common project?
I have no permit for the bandstand yet.
Okay. My understanding that is also that the I don't even know if they've started to work on it. It's my understanding that the change order still needs to be, the request for a change order needs to be put in front of the select board. Now, we haven't been asked, other than being, in favor of accessibility, we haven't been asked to look at any final drawings but I think the consensus was that a 1 to 20 versus a 1 to 12 is preferred. And that I guess Paul Scarlett has said that he'll keep us apprised of any requests, for our input. I guess that would be if we meet prior to their meeting for the change order. So, so that was just an update that it's sort of a placeholder. I've been putting that on there. Anyone else have any input regarding the Grafton Common? Okay, next item, Parks and Rec. Okay, I just wanted to, without getting into all of the details of the fact that we know that there are 6 parks that were part of the CPC funding at town meeting, and this didn't make it to our meeting packet as I had obtained it in the last day. Okay, and if you'll oblige me, there's a 1-page letter, okay, that I forwarded all to you, okay, today. I think it was today. And if you'll oblige me to read this, and then we can just enter it into and it can become part of the draft minutes. And it was the July 29th, 2021 advisory opinion from the AAB's Executive Director, William Joyce. And it's regarding grass mats. And Dear Director Anderson, in response to your July 15, 2021 provision of additional information regarding your request for an advisory opinion, the Architectural Access Board took up the question as to whether the grass mats could be used for recreational facilities. At its regularly scheduled July 26, 2021 meeting, after reviewing your submission as well as all relevant code sections, the board voted to find that the grass mat surface material proposed is compliant for use in recreational facilities where, one, the accessible routes fully comply with 521 CMR 20 and 2022. Number two, the grass mats are installed and maintained such that they are clearly visible and delineated from non-matted areas. Number three, information on routes and the material is provided on the website for the facility. And four, the surface is maintained as necessary to ensure continued compliance. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch with me. Sincerely, William Joyce, Executive Director. So I know that we had discussed it at a few meetings where the initial AAB advisory opinion pertained only within the confines of a playground. So after they laid the matting outside of the playgrounds and the general recreational areas, they immediately became non-compliant. So that advisory opinion, that's really good news. Okay. And I think one of the main things that we had talked about in the prior meetings is that it was thought that, oh, we'll just let the grass grow through all the holes, but we really can't, that can't happen. It certainly has to be visible enough to be noticed by those as a pathway, not just a continuation of grass. That was good news. Anyone not have any comments on that discussion point? That particular item? No. All right. And I guess I'll throw this out of Mr. Berger. Is there any official sign off that these parks are complete? Like who signs off that the work is done? The CPC? Because it was CPC funded.
There's, with sign off, it would have to be a permit, and there is no permit.
Mm-hmm.
So
Gotcha.
building will have nothing to do with it.
Okay. Okay. So.
But wait a minute, there is a architect. Neil Dixon is the designer of record, we can say.
Okay.
So you are going to have a document from Dixon and Zalo.
Okay. Okay, that the work is complete.
And it's code compliant.
Okay. Okay. And so where is that housed? Is that housed at the town clerk's office, or how, like where does that?
I would think that document will be part of his contract so we can have final payment.
Okay.
So that would probably sit in the select board's office.
Okay. All right.
And then of course, recreation, they could get a copy of that too.
Okay. All right. All right.
Roger, this is Jen, actually, if I may pop in here.
Oh, okay. I saw you sign on earlier and then you kind of disappeared, at least on my screen. Jen Anderson, Recreation Director. Please speak.
No, so Bob, thank you. I just want to clarify, it's two different projects. So I think what Bob's thinking of is what we recently went out to bid with, what we're working with Dixon on is access to like things like batting cages and lowering countertops at snack bars and such. And so that is what Dixon and the architect and they'll sign off on. The other stuff with CPC and our routes is different. So we don't have Dixon signed on for that. So now that we have AAB approval and there's some things they want us to obviously address a bit, and we will, but it's the fact that for the majority of the fact that we'll be able to move forward with what we have in place.
So what needs to be done now still? Is there uncompleted work? Like what is the extent of the completed versus uncompleted
Like I
portions?
said, there's just getting those routes a little more visible if we need to put signage in places, those sorts of things. So, I mean, the material exists, but, you know, I'd like to see a little cleanup also exist on those routes.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and so, you know, we'll just follow the guidelines. I was pleased at the advisory opinion. You know, I mean, absent soft earth that could otherwise cause these things to kind of, you know, not be so steady. They're otherwise, I mean, I've walked them, not recently, but you know, I didn't find any issue with them. How's everything at Silver Lake? Everything holding up there too on the sand?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot of washout up there, so there's things we'll have to adjust. But
Okay,
you know, all in all, it's all intact, and I think has worked pretty well.
okay. So what is there a maintenance plan in place to sort of check on these things that they remain? I guess they're tied together with these like plastic ties, and so is it DPW? Like who does the regular visual?
Well,
for
yeah,
them
I mean, I
reporting?
just walked around parks yesterday for, you know, a very lengthy list. It'd really be the both of us,
Okay.
whether what I see versus what they see, and asking for the help to do it. You know, there were some mats that needed to be adjusted at Ferry Street Playground, and those will be adjusted further when we do the ramp work and stuff that Bob
Okay.
was just talking about to the restrooms and such. So things will
Okay.
be rerouted. So like I said, I know you keep wanting an update and finalization, but things are still being tweaked
Okay.
as we try to get it complete. So it's been a little, you know, we're getting there, just not all the way there.
Thank you for all your efforts. You've been really, really on top of this, and so you know that, and then now with this advisory opinion, it's just it's a nice feeling to not have that issue hanging over your head. So, awesome. So yeah, so I may occasionally just shoot you an email how things going, any updates, things like that, and then you know we can.
No, and I meant to just send you that opinion. I just was trying to get everything,
That's
you know,
okay.
lined up, and I know it was late for you guys to do
That's
that.
okay.
And so Bob, I just wanted to make sure we're clarifying on the two different projects we have going on there. So thank you, everybody.
No, that's all good.
All right, thank you, Jen. All right, any other comments on Parks and Rec? Okay, and then as another placeholder, AAB and ADA complaints, including updates. I mean, the various and I say random items, I have anything that has come my way, and it's entirely been Mr. Ricker has emailed, I've been CC'd on things. And so I take that to mean if, as he's seeing me and I'm the chair, that to me means he's CCing the commission. So that's how these items have ended up on our agenda as a recurring item on follow-up. So I really was only going to touch base on two things, Grafton Land Trust, Gummery Wood. My understanding is that 90-day order from AAB, I think has to be complied by like around September 2nd regarding closing off that what is known by everyone as the entrance that has a gravel, and that being moved to a little open wooded area a little further up. And so there's various discussions going back and forth. Right now it's the 19th of August. I'll wait and see and see where that ends up. Question for you, Mr. Berger, and it had to do with the fact that Grafton Land Trust isn't really a public building, even though it's open to the public, and what is under your purview and what is not. I know that Mr. Ricker had also brought up the ADA issue that is really not under AAB regarding the parking. It had to do with van accessible space. The AAB puts it at 1 for the first 15. You have to reach 15, I guess, spaces to require van accessible space. ADA, it's even just 1, I guess. So that doesn't fall under you. I know we've spoken or you had said it doesn't fall under you as far as not really having the authority to do anything. I mean, the complaint's been made. What are your thoughts, Bob, as far as?
Once, you know, if Scott comes in and he makes a complaint about any business or any facility in town, I try to rectify it so it doesn't get, you know, to the next step. But once it goes to the next step, I'm just on the sideline, just like this commission. We're on the sideline. We're
Right.
waiting to see, you know, are they going to abide by whatever orders were written and passed along?
Right.
And that's all we can do. I mean, Scott comes to me and says they restriped the parking lot and they didn't comply with, you know, the new provisions or the provisions when they restripe it. Well, then I go to the owner and I say, you know, you have no choice but to do this. Now, if they decide that they don't want to work with the building department or myself because they for some reason they just don't want to, that's it. I'm kind of done. If they don't want to comply, the next step is for Scott or whoever to write the complaint to the board or go to, you know, file with ADA. And then, you know, this commission, we're out, we can't help, but we're going to get notified every step of the way.
Okay.
I mean, that's your role or our role in this commission. And that's my role as the inspector.
So we just, AAB has nothing to do with it. They basically stay out. So that's why that whole stipulated order was silent on that parking piece, because it was only like 3 or 4 well, maybe 5
That's right.
parking spaces. Gotcha. And so even under ADA, I mean, that would be a parking space to nowhere because we know the topography there. So even if there were a van accessible space, that someone would need to then physically come out into the street to then have access to that, what will be the new entrance.
That's
So-
what they're trying to do. That's right.
So, okay. All right. And then I'll keep in touch with Land Trust and see where that discussion is going. 78 Worcester Street, I understand. I guess the spot where Joy Cleaners used to be, I guess that has been restriped, and the far right space has been restriped. And I think now it has a sign. It may not technically say the words van accessible, but at least there is some signage. Have you driven by there, Bob? I did a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when I drove by there, it was in the wrong spot. So I actually stopped in the facility. I grabbed the electrician and I said, you got to do me a favor and take that sign and move it right now because I'm done.
Okay.
And I saw the electrician take the sign down and bang it back up.
All right. The other piece was, and I was glad that they did this, based on the ramps or the access to the various doors of the businesses are from the far right and the far left. So I was glad that they actually reconfigured the access aisle to be on the right side of the vehicle, so you could just then go up the ramp instead of facing a curb cut the way it used to be. So right now the new striping is an improvement. What happens as far as the signage? My understanding is that has to technically say van accessible, right?
One of them does.
Okay, the far left one or the one that they recently just striped? One in front of Santander, or?
I think it doesn't tell us where, but one of them does.
Okay.
So they can make up their minds which one. Well, actually, let me restate that. The one that is sized properly has to be the van accessible because there's
Okay.
2 different sizes
Okay.
for a regular vehicle and a van. So I don't know which one right now off the top of my.
So maybe you can provide some perspective here. I'm thinking it may be the one on the left in front of Santander because it looks like, and I don't know whether this was on purpose or by accident, the striping, there's a line that goes across the end that almost says this is a smaller space. It's like there's as you're entering the parking space, from left to right, there's a stripe painted. It's not, and the rest of the lines are just open paint lines. Whereas this accessible space has a stripe that basically says, okay, a stripe is drawn and painted where the lines end. Have you ever seen that before?
No,
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, but I don't. I'll have to take a visit there. I just made a note to report back to the committee.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And so moving forward, how do we, I mean, I can only imagine like this is just sort of a hodgepodge of things that, because I was CC'd, I've been randomly put like the whole thing with Mike's Mobile, the thing with the CVS COVID clinic. I've just been throwing them on the agenda. Okay. Because I've been CC'd. Okay. What type of list do you have and checklists internally? I mean, to follow through regarding where things stand in process.
If somebody walks in and verbally says that there's a violation there, then it doesn't go anywhere.
Okay.
Because I can't track it if it's verbally.
Okay.
If they write me a complaint,
okay,
and it gets logged into our database,
right,
and then we can track it that way and put an expiration date on it so it keeps on coming up in the calendar.
okay.
But some of these things that you keep on talking about, like CVS pharmacy, I mean, that's been a topic in your committee maybe 2 times, maybe 3 times. I'm really
Right.
not sure. But CVS pharmacy, Grafton was the second one to give them a permit for that little pod they have outside. And we did that because there's a pandemic going on. And I worked very closely with the state BBRS and with William Joyce in AAB, because all the pieces of the puzzle were not put together yet.
Okay.
Meaning they were going in. CVS jumped the gun before they put it in throughout the municipality, right, to all of the Commonwealth. But again, we have a pandemic, and I wanted that to be permitted, so I wanted people to get testing there, because I knew right after testing was going to be, that's where they're going to give the shots.
Okay.
So I was in contact with William at AAB and said, William, I know that it's not handicap accessible. He says, we know that, and CVS has a procedure with people with disabilities that can't get in there. They know what they're going to do. They're going to treat them and test them in their car. You know what? I said, that's fine. So I gave them their permit. So that never really should have made it here. And I called Scott like right after I did it. And I said, Scott, this is why I permitted it. And he said, okay, that sounds good. But then a couple months later, I think you got the complaint.
Okay. Okay.
And again, with Mike's Mobile, I asked Mike, you've got to make that accessible. And he decided he didn't do it. So that's where now it leaves me, and it goes right into whatever board the complaintee wants to go to, either ADA or AAB.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, this is more of a courtesy, and so I don't know if these things need to keep, resurfacing. I didn't want to ignore them because I was CC'd. It seemed like the intent was that was correspondence to the commission. So I wasn't going to ignore it. So it has sort of been, once it made correspondence, I kept it on as a placeholder to follow up on those issues. And you're saying that should never been really an issue, that shouldn't have been in front of us, really.
Well, anything could be in front of you, but now that I'm on this committee, then we can always have a fast conversation on what's going on. And I might come back and say, the building department's gone as far as they can go.
Okay.
And it's gone to the next step, which is a border or in federal for ADA or AAB. And then that's it. And then if you get another correspondent, then you can always say, we've done everything we can, and it's beyond this commission.
Okay.
And of course, eventually a notice will come back to this commission. So you'll be able to read to the commission what's going on. And for some reason, I just got a thing that somebody's internet is unstable. I hope it's not mine.
No. You just got a message? No, I hope it's
Yeah,
not
I
mine.
did. I did.
All
It
right.
just came up on the screen.
Okay, no.
So I might be checking out soon.
All right. Well, we're winding down anyway. So all right. So Worcester Street, okay. So all right. All right. So Grafton Library, Montgomery Wood, 78 Worcester. All right. So you said you'll swing by at some point, 78 Worcester, just to see if there's anything else that needs to be done, Bob, or not?
No, you wanted clarification on the handicap spot.
Okay.
And where is the van? And is there a difference in size between the two? And do they conform? I think
Okay.
that's what I heard.
Right. And so are you saying then, Bob, that you need to determine that, or are you saying that you're comfortable that it is?
No, I'm not comfortable. I have to go and,
Okay,
as an
gotcha.
inspector,
Right.
I have to look and
Okay.
I have to measure to verify that the sizes are proper.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So new business, again, new business is always a placeholder. So does anyone have any new business items that they want to throw out there? All right. Before going to next meeting and then adjourning, I'm just going to scan to make sure I didn't miss any parts of the agenda, because I know I took some things out of order.
I've been checking it off as we go.
All right. And you're comfortable too? All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.
All right. So next meeting, I always just put this on as a reminder. Third Thursday still works for everyone at 6:30. That would be September 16th.
I'd like to say that, I know I am a new member, but is there a reason why we can't start at 7?
We used to start at 7. And what happened is that, and again, it was a different makeup of the board. It was just that if a 2-hour meeting occurred starting at 7, 9 o'clock is just a little bit later for some than, let's say, 8:30. All right. Right now I'm looking at 8:10 right now. But there were some meetings, and again, it's all from one meeting to the next, how much conversation happens. And there were some meetings early on that there was a lot of talk, and there was a few meetings that went 2.5 and 3 hours. And so that may have contributed to us deciding to go back to 6:30, just in case we went 2.5 hours. Even a long meeting wouldn't go past 9, but if we started at 7, and a long meeting would potentially go to 9:30 or beyond. So there isn't any hard fast rule. I don't know what everyone else thinks. 6:30 seems to have been working, and gets people out at a reasonable time. Bob, is 7 o'clock better for you?
Well, I do have a part-time job that I'm the inspector of wires in Northborough.
Oh, okay.
So, if I come in late, I'll just have to come in late. That's all.
Okay. All right. Does anyone, what are people's thoughts on 7 o'clock versus 6:30? I know 6:30. I prefer 6:30, but that's just me. Not because of 6:30, but it prevents 9 o'clock and 9:30 or beyond from happening, versus a 6:30. So anyone else?
And I really like it when we are done at 8 o'clock.
All right. You know what? I didn't say it.
No,
Okay.
no. So no, we're only teasing Bob. No, if we can stay at 6:30, that would be really helpful, only because I'm up at 5.
Mhm.
I'm up
I
at
would-
5:05.
I would agree with Chris here. 6:30 just works better for me because of the early mornings.
Yeah. And can I follow up with 2 things that I missed while taking notes, just real
Okay.
quick?
Yep.
Scott Ricker, that letter that you mentioned, was that part of the meeting packet, or will it be included?
No, it's an email. It was an email. And so
Okay.
what had happened is that.
No. I just
Yeah.
need to know it exists.
No, yeah, and it's an email. It was just an
Okay.
email.
Okay, then I'm
communication.
gonna refer to the meeting packet. That's, yeah, I don't
Right.
need to review it. And then lastly, can I follow up with you, please, Mr. Berger? What is the date? I put it down that there's another date for a walkthrough for the library. Has that date?
I don't have that. That wasn't part of my discussion.
Okay, and so from what we understand, because I'm just clarifying, because everything is delayed, that will
Christie,
the occupancy be approved, but they don't open it for 2 weeks? Is that what I'm understanding?
They have a temporary occupancy right now.
Temporary, thank you.
But
Okay,
they have that right now.
Yeah.
For employees to set up the facility.
okay, thank you.
And they won't get the full until all the furniture's in, and then we can have my inspector walk in and make sure all of the ADA compliant everything's ADA compliant
Okay, thank
or
you.
AAB.
Daryl?
Awesome.
and Evan invited us to do that walkthrough at a date to be announced.
Yeah.
Right, okay, thank you.
Right. And so along those lines, my placeholder for a workshop. So I hate that we kind of, I guess, shut you down, Bob, on the whole 7 o'clock thing.
It's all
but-
good. No, it's all
All
good.
right. Okay. I just, it's been working well, I think. That's all.
That's fine.
All right. Thank you. Workshop meeting. We've kind of kept on tabling this. And I think that an extra meeting, namely a walkthrough through the library, may sort of kind of push that workshop meeting back again. As far as workshops, I think I know that we have to sort of tackle some policies and procedures. We could do a piecemeal in various regular meetings, or we could have a workshop meeting for policies and procedures or some other team building or whatever you have a workshop meeting for. But I had nothing specific in mind. I just put that down as a placeholder. If you look back at our agendas, it's been pretty much almost on every agenda. So any comments on that? All right, none. All right, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved by Darrell. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Berger. All right, by roll call, all those in favor, Darrell Riney,
Aye.
Christy Proctor,
Aye.
Bob Berger,
Aye.
Catherine Dorr,
Aye.
Laura Deneen,
Aye.
Rob Paulsonelli,
Aye.
Trahan, I declare the motion carried. This meeting is adjourned at 8:16 p.m.